Something quietly shifts within a person who has lived long enough to recognize truth when it finally speaks. The questions that once drove you, how far can I go? What will I achieve? Who will recognize me? Begin to soften into deeper, more enduring inquiries. What was worth the cost? What remains when the noise fades? What truly mattered all along? You recognize now that much of what once consumed your energy mattered less than you believed, while moments you rushed past carried enduring significance. This is not disappointment, it is discernment. It is the kind of clarity that only arrives after decades of living, failing, striving, loving, and enduring. You now see patterns others miss. You recognize the years have stripped away illusion and replaced it with understanding. Like a seasoned craftsman who no longer needs to measure every cut, you move by instinct, shaped through repetition. This revelation does not diminish your past striving. It redeems it by showing what it was preparing you to see. Every ambition, every heartbreak, every detour was shaping your sight. Socrates, the unexamined life is not worth living. This truth becomes fully understood only after a life has been lived. In your later chapters, examination replaces reaction. You no longer live unconsciously, you live deliberately, aware of meaning beneath events. You have lived long enough to understand that wisdom is not loud. It arrives quietly, like autumn light, softer than summer, yet infinitely richer. This is the awakening of perspective, the recognition that you are no longer chasing life, you are finally understanding it. The decades behind you have taught lessons no book could contain. You have learned what endurance feels like in the bones, what sacrifice costs when it stretches over years, and what love requires when it is tested by time rather than. You have watched seasons repeat. People come and go, fortunes rise and fall. Through it all, you remained. That alone has taught you more than theory ever could. You have discovered that character is revealed slowly, often under pressure. Wisdom, you now know, is earned through repetition, not inspiration. Failures once labeled mistakes now stand as instructors. Hard seasons became strengthening seasons. The years that once felt wasted now reveal themselves as invisible preparation. Friedrich Nietzsche, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. From a distance, you can see this clearly now. The trials that bent you did not break you. They shaped a strength you now carry with quiet confidence. You understand what the young cannot yet grasp. That life is less about speed and more about direction, less about applause and more about alignment. You have learned that consistency outlasts intensity, and that inner peace is a greater achievement than outer approval. Like a tree with deep roots you stand, not because storms avoided you, but because you endured them. These years were not merely lived, they were invested. The interest is now visible in the form of discernment, patience, and grounded strength. With this accumulated wisdom comes a rare opportunity. You are no longer driven by the need to prove yourself. That season has passed. You have earned the right to choose with intention. You now act not from hunger, but from clarity, not from fear of missing out, but from understanding what is essential. This season allows you to move with urgency, without panic, purpose, without desperation. You can invest your remaining energy where it truly matters, guided by meaning rather than momentum. What once felt risky now feels honest. What once felt impossible now feels necessary. Carl Jung, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. Later life is not a retreat inward. It is an awakening outward from inner truth. You now live from understanding rather than ambition. You understand time's value because you have watched it pass. This does not make you anxious. It makes you precise. You no longer scatter your attention. You choose deliberately. This is not limitation. It is mastery. Like a mountain climber who has reached a high summit, You now see farther, not because you are stronger than before, but because you are higher. From this vantage point, choices become simpler and distractions lose their power. This is a defining juncture, the moment when legacy becomes conscious. The influence you have carried unknowingly through your years can now be shaped deliberately. Legacy is no longer accidental. It becomes intentional, not louder, but deeper, not broader, but truer, whether through guidance, creation, reconciliation, or example. You are positioned to leave something enduring. Your legacy may not be written in public recognition, but in private transformation, in the lives steadied by your counsel, the values preserved by your example, the wisdom passed forward quietly. Aristotle. What we do repeatedly becomes your character. You now see that legacy is not a single act, but a lifetime of consistent choices. Who you became is what you leave behind. You have lived long enough to know that meaning is not found in accumulation, but in contribution. The harvest of your years is ready, and it was never meant to be stored. It was meant to be shared. Transition. The second horizon does not ask you to abandon the first. It invites you to see it from a higher elevation. From here, the journey makes sense. The climbs, the valleys, the detours, they form a coherent whole. You are not starting over. You are bringing everything full circle. Albert Einstein. Wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. Your life itself has been the classroom. Now comes the responsibility and the privilege of applying and passing on what you have learned. This is not an ending, it is fulfillment. The second horizon stands before you, not as a challenge to conquer, but as a calling to complete. The deeper understanding, with the wisdom of experience, life reveals its true proportions. You now see how quickly titles fade, how possessions change hands, and how moments of integrity outlast moments of triumph. What once seemed monumental now appears temporary. What once felt insignificant now reveals itself as enduring. This shift is not born of cynicism, but of clarity. You have lived long enough to witness cycles complete themselves. Careers crest and descend, reputations rise and dissolve, eras come and go. Perspective has become your quiet strength. You have climbed enough mountains to know that the view matters more than the applause at the base. From this elevation, the frantic striving of earlier years appears understandable, even necessary, yet no longer compelling. The deeper understanding you carry is not spoken loudly. It is carried in how you listen, how you choose, how you respond. This is the authority of lived life, earned slowly, revealed gently, and respected instinctively by those who recognize it. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic philosopher, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself. Only after decades of seeking fulfillment outward does this truth fully settle in. You now know happiness is less about accumulation and more about alignment, living in accordance with what you know to be right. This deeper understanding marks a turning point. You are no longer measuring life by its noise, but by its meaning. The harvest. The season resembles harvest time. The years of effort, patience, and persistence have produced far more than external results. They have formed you. Like a field tended through many seasons, your life has endured droughts and storms, yet still yielded growth. You carry stories etched with meaning, lessons shaped by hardship, and insights refined by repetition. These are not abstract ideas. They are truths earned through long days and longer nights. Even the years you once questioned now reveal their value. The job that drained you taught endurance. The relationship that ended taught discernment. The dream that failed redirected your course. Nothing was wasted. Every chapter contributed to the fullness of what you now hold. The harvest of your years is not measured in trophies, but in understanding. Understanding of people, of priorities, of yourself. Charles Darwin, naturalist and thinker. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, but the one most responsive to change. Your survival and growth across decades came not from brute force, but from adaptability. You learned when to hold firm and when to adjust, an art only time can teach. Harvest is not rushed. It arrives when the work has been done, and the season is right. You now stand in that season, able to see what your labor produced beneath the surface all along. The world needs what you have learned, not theories, not slogans, but truth, tested by living. Your experience carries a unique authority because it has been earned honestly. You have navigated responsibility, loss, compromise, perseverance, and renewal. These experiences give your words weight, even when spoken quietly. Your contribution now lies in translation, turning experience into guidance, struggle into wisdom, and perspective into stability for others. Perhaps it is shared with family, through stories that carry values rather than instructions. Perhaps it is offered in community through presence more than position. Or perhaps it is simply lived, allowing those who observe you to see what steadiness looks like. Confucius, the great philosopher and teacher, told that wisdom, compassion, and courage are the three universally recognized moral qualities of men. At this stage of life, you embody these qualities not because you studied them, but because life required them of you. Your contribution flows naturally from who you have become. You are not required to convince. You are not required to impress. Your life already speaks, and those who are ready will hear it. There is a calling toward wholeness in this stage of life. Unfinished dreams may not require reinvention, but integration. What was once fragmented, work and family, ambition and meaning, effort and peace, now seeks harmony. This is not about reclaiming youth or rewriting history. It is about bringing the pieces together into a coherent whole. Like a master craftsman finishing a long project, you now focus less on speed and more on fit. You refine, simplify, and align. Completion is not an ending, it is a deepening. It is the satisfaction of knowing that what you have lived is beginning to make sense as a unified story. Carl Jung, a great psychologist and philosopher, narrated that the afternoon of life must have a significance of its own and cannot be merely a pitiful appendage to life's morning. You now understand that this season is not lesser, it is different. It carries its own meaning, purpose, and dignity. Completion brings peace not because everything was perfect, but because it is now understood. You have lived long enough to know that legacy is not declared, it is demonstrated. It is revealed in the way you treat others when nothing is at stake, in the standards you uphold when no one is watching, and in the wisdom you pass on without demand for recognition. Legacy is the echo of your values carried forward by others. The choices you make now, guided by clarity and compassion, will ripple beyond your years. A conversation that restores dignity, a decision that models integrity, a moment of patience that changes a trajectory. These are the quiet acts that endure. Albert Einstein, scientist and thinker, once said, "Try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value." Only with perspective does this truth fully land. You now see that value outlives success, and meaning outlasts achievement. This is your invitation to shape what remains, to pass forward what endures, and to honor the full journey by finishing with intention. The second horizon is not behind you. It stands before you, rich with meaning, offering not another race to run, but a legacy to fulfill.